Hello to all my dear CA Inter students. The ICI has already issued our RTP for the May 25 exams, and in today's video we are going to discuss the questions that are there in the RTP. I am not going to discuss the direct question. Generally it is maybe from the chapter interpretation of statute we have this one question which will be not be discussing the direct question. We are going to discuss all the MCQs and the practical questions here. So first, let's start with the MCQs. So Shilpi and Shilpa, both known for their close friendships in college days, along with other close friends, incorporated a company named Baking Point Limited with its registered office in Connaught Place, New Delhi. The company served chocolates, various types of cakes, pastries, rolls, etc. Their products and clients demonstrated testimony to over 10 years of service in this field. With over 50 branches in New Delhi and adjoining areas of National Capital Region, NCR, the products were embodiment of elegance, a sanctuary where flavors intertwined, oh my god, and cherished moments came alive. Shilpi was the CMD, Chief Managing Director, whereas Shilpa was the whole-time director. In addition to Shilpi and Shilpa, Baking Point Limited, ever proud of having a sincere management team, had Prabhat as the Director, Research and Development, Sahil as a Director, Marketing, Vikalp as a Director, Production, and Sukanya as a Director, Finance. The company maintained and kept all the statutory registered at its registered office in Connaught Place. Understanding the need and power of information technology and also giving due weightage to the demand of changing laws and considering trend of the society, Baking Point Limited availed the services of an internet service provider known by the name Etherwaves Telecommunication Private Limited, located in Chandigarh, India, which offered the company with high-speed internet that was required for business application like cloud data backup and teleconferencing. It was thought that this magnificent and progressive step would help the company's business to connect with the customers spreading across the nation as well as abroad. Even the employees of the company would be able to connect from anywhere to collaborate with their teams. The company had also registered its unique web address www.bakingpoint.com for its website. With this development, Baking Point Limited started maintaining its books of accounts and other relevant papers in the electronic mode. In order to reinforce loyalty among the shareholders, the directors of Baking Point Limited thought of issuing bonus shares in the ratio of 1:2 to the shareholders, and in the process passed a resolution to this effect at the meeting of the board of directors, which was held on December 6, 2024. They felt that issue of bonus shares would use internal resources more efficiently, and also this strategy would serve as an alternative to dividend payout at no extra cost. The issue of bonus shares was approved at the EGM meeting held on January 9, 2025. The record date, that is the cutoff date, being January 23, 2025, was set by the company to determine the eligibility of the shareholders for getting the bonus shares. In order to proceed with the issue of bonus shares, the register of members was closed for 12 days by giving previous notice of 15 days, and an advertisement in this respect was also published. At the time of the declaration, this was the position of the company. Extract of balance sheet. The accounts relating to financial year was duly audited by Raghavan and Associates of New Delhi, and the requisite documents required to be submitted to the jurisdiction registrar of companies were duly filed in time under the supervision of whole-time company secretary Saira Murthy. Now solve the MCQs. According to the above case scenario, Baking Point Limited closed its register of members for 12 days in connection with the issue of bonus shares to its shareholders. You are required to choose the correct option from those stated below as to the maximum time limit for which the register of members can be closed. Okay. Section 91 of the Act says that at one time you can close the register of members for 30 days, and in a year you can maximum close the register for 45 days, right? Though Baking Point Limited closes register of members for 12 days in connection with the issue of bonus shares, yet it is permitted to close the said registrar maximum for a period not exceeding 45 days. This looks correct, yes. Though Baking for 12 days in connection, yes, it is permitted to close the said register maximum for a period not exceeding 20 days. This is not correct. Again, if you see not exceeding 30 days, not exceeding 60 days. So what is the answer? A. Baking Point Limited declared issue of bonus shares in the ratio of 1:2 to its shareholders. Which of the following resources was not permitted to capitalize? Okay. According to section 63, what are the sources of bonus shares? You can declare bonus shares out of what? You can declare bonus shares out of your reserves, out of your securities premium and capital redemption reserve, right? So if I look here, for issuing bonus shares, Baking Point Limited was not permitted to capitalize the amount of 2 crores 10 lakh lying to the credit of free reserve. This is not correct because they can use free reserves. For issuing bonus shares, was not permitted to capitalize the amount of 30 lakhs shown by you can use securities premium account. For issuing bonus shares, it was not permitted to capitalize the revaluation reserve. Okay, any reserve which is created by the revaluation of assets cannot be used for issue of bonus shares. So this is not, and capital is was not permitted to capitalize. You can use capital redemption reserve to capitalize to issue bonus shares. So the answer is C. It is evident from the above case scenario that Baking Point Limited closed its register of members for the first time in the year 25 for 12 days for the purpose of issuing bonus shares. Maximum how many times and for how much period or periods a company is permitted to close in each year? Okay, section 91 says maximum in a year it can be 45 days, at a time it can be 30 days. However, they have not given anything as to how many times can you do it. So in each year, the company is permitted to close its register of members for one time or more than one time, and also for any period, but in aggregate such period shall not exceed 45 days. This is correct. That means it can one time it can close more than one time. There is no restriction, but the maximum period cannot be more than 45 days. 60 days is obviously not correct. 90 days is obviously not correct. And let's just see the last one. 100 days is also not correct. So the answer is what? A. Baking Point Limited, honestly speaking, these MCQs we could have answered even without reading the whole thing. Baking Point Limited issued bonus shares to its shareholders. Which of the following statement is true regarding the issuance of bonus shares? Bonus shares can be issued only if authorized by the articles. Correct. Bonus shares can be issued without the approval of the board of directors. No, I need the approval of the board of directors. This is not correct. Bonus shares must be issued in exchange for additional capital contribution. No, they are fully paid up shares that the company issues. We don't take any capital from the shareholders. Bonus shares are issued at a price lower than the market value. We don't charge them. So basically it is A. Baking Point Limited declared a final dividend for the financial year at its annual general meeting. As per Companies Act, what should the company do if a shareholder does not claim the dividend within 30 days of declaration? So under section 123, if a shareholder does not claim the money, under section 124, if the shareholder does not claim the money within 30 days, within the next 7 days, I have to transfer this money to a special bank account called unpaid dividend account of this and this company. So the company must immediately transfer the amount to investors. No. Here the money will stay. Unpaid dividend, you don't immediately transfer. You will keep it in the separate bank account for 7 years. If 7 years it's unclaimed, then you transfer it to Investors Education and Protection Fund. To a special, so this is the answer, within 7 days from the expiry of 30 days. The dividend remains with the company. No. The company must cancel the dividend. No. As the Companies Act, as per the Companies Act, for how long are they supposed to retain the books of accounts and other financial? It doesn't matter whether it's in electronic mode or not. Books have to be preserved for how many years? 8 years. Suppose now Baking Point Limited wants to appoint an internal auditor to review its operations and compliance. As per the Companies Act, which of the following is correct? Appointment of internal auditor is mandatory for all companies. No. Section 138 gives us the limit and only those companies have to appoint. An internal auditor must be a CA in practice, not necessary. An internal auditor may be a CA or a CMA or any other. This is right. Internal auditor must be appointed by the shareholders. No, internal auditor is appointed by the board of directors. So the answer is what? C. XYZ LLP, a well-established limited liability partnership, has two designated partners, Aditi and Rajiv. On 15 Jan 25, Rajiv resigned due to personal reasons, leaving Aditi as the only designated partner. The remaining partners were aware of their responsibility to appoint a new designated partner as per the requirement of the LLP Act. However, due to internal disagreements, they failed to appoint a new designated partner within the prescribed time. When you don't appoint a new designated partner within 30 days, then every partner becomes a designated partner and each of the partner is liable for all the legal compliances. Correct? So here, on 20th Feb, the registrar of company issued a notice seeking clarification on its compliance status regarding the appointment of the designated partner. As per LLP choose, LLP will automatically be dissolved. There is nothing like that. Aditi will be removed. No, others will become. If one more designated partner is not appointed within 30 days of vacancy, each partner will be deemed. This is correct. Will be fined. There is no such fine. So each partner will be a designated and each of them will be liable for all the legal compliances. Pranab, an Indian citizen and a software engineer, was working for a multinational IT firm based in Singapore for over 8 years. During his tenure, he accumulated substantial savings in his Singapore bank account and invested in a few properties there. With a plan to permanently return to India, he decided to sell one of his properties and transfer the proceeds to his newly opened bank account in India. Simultaneously, Pranab's employer deputed him to India for a crucial software development project for 3 years, effective from January 23. His salary was credited to his Indian bank account. Now, Pranab wishes to transfer the proceeds from selling his property in Singapore to his bank account in India. Which is the most accurate? Since he had acquired this property while he was a person resident outside India. So FEMA Act very clearly says that if you have acquired any property while you were a person resident outside India, you have a right to hold that property or you have a right to sell the property and recover and get the money, the proceeds of the sale to India, right? So here he can freely transfer without as he's an Indian. This is not correct. It is only if he had acquired the property when he was a resident outside India. He cannot transfer at all since he can freely transfer the funds if the property was purchased while he was a resident. This is correct. If I am a person resident outside India and while I am resident outside India, I acquire any property, I can freely transfer that money to India. He needs prior approval. No, he doesn't need any approval. Miss Kanika Tripathi, an accomplished classical dancer, has been invited by Oxford University to perform at a cultural event. She wants to withdraw 75,000. Okay. When I say cultural event, for this I need the approval of central government. Or if it is within the limit, I can go through the LRS scheme, liberalized remittance scheme, right? For all the capital and current account transaction to the extent of 2,50,000, I can go through liberalized remittance scheme. So she must obtain the prior approval of Reserve Bank of India. No, this does not need the approval of Reserve Bank of India. Second, she can withdraw freely within the limits prescribed under LRS scheme. Correct. This is this is not prohibited. So this is not correct. She must obtain a visa. Like seriously. So the answer is what? B. So with this, we are done with the MCQs and now let's proceed to the next part, that is the descriptive questions. Grab Limited, an unlisted company, intends to make a public offer of securities. Okay, it wants to make a public offer of securities. However, they are not sure about the compliance requirements for issuing securities in DMAT form. You being an expert, guide Grab Limited on the relevant provisions of the Companies Act and whether Grab Limited is eligible to issue its securities. When under section 29, whenever a person is offering the securities to the public, the securities have to be in the DMAT form. In fact, under the rules, they have given the class of companies which have to issue the securities in the DMAT form. They cannot issue or transfer securities in physical form. It has to be in DMAT form. And whenever the securities are in DMAT form, whatever is given under the Depositories Act, we are supposed to follow that also. So a company can issue securities to the public provided it is in the DMAT form. So here basically you have to quote section number 29. Shenoy Limited is a company with an authorized share capital of 20 lakh, equity shares of 100 each. At the AGM, the shareholders proposed to reduce the face value of each share from 100 to 10 and correspondingly increase the number of shares from 20 to 2. keeping the total authorized share capital unchanged. So that means this is what? Alteration of share capital under section 61. Analyze whether the request of the shareholders is considerable, and if so, how the company, can they do it? Yes, they can do it. So it's basically you are dividing the shares into shares of larger value or smaller, so consolidating and subdividing the shares into shares of smaller value. For this, your articles must authorize, correct? And you have to pass an ordinary resolution within 30 days of alteration. You must give a notice to the ROC about the alteration. And if obviously there is no change in the authorized capital, so there is no change in the increase, there is no increase in the authorized capital. Excel Private Limited received 50 lakh from Mr. Giver. Mr. Giver was a director of the company at the time of the transaction. However, Mr. Giver did not submit any written declaration stating that the amount was not given out of borrowed funds. The company used the fund for business expansion and disclosed the receipt of money in the board's report. So if you remember, a private company can accept money from its director and it will not be considered as deposits, provided we take a written declaration from them that it is not given from borrowed money and it is shown in the board's report, right? So basically, if I'm a private company, first, I have taken money from my director. So this money will not be considered as deposits if the director gives a written declaration that this money is my own and it is not any borrowed fund, correct? But here what they have done was that he has not given any written declaration stating that the amount was not given out of borrowed funds. He has not given that declaration. So was Excel Private Limited compliant with the requirements with respect to acceptance of money from Mr. Giver? Since it is requirement of the act that whenever you accept money from your directors, you have to take a written declaration, and that was not taken. So no, the company is not in compliance. If Mr. Giver had given the money out of funds borrowed from another person, whether this amount will be considered as deposits. We take a written declaration from them that this money belongs to them and it is not borrowed funds. And if the money is borrowed funds, then it will be considered as deposits. So the answer is yes. Madan Private Limited is a partially owned subsidiary of Puri Limited, holding 90% of its shares. The company does not have any listed securities and is not in the process of listing on any stock exchange. Puri Limited, the holding company, prepares and files consolidated financial statement with the registrar in compliance with the applicable accounting standards. Considering the above, analyze if Madan Private Limited is required to prepare its own consolidated financial statement. What are the requisite conditions for the same? Well, if I am a partially or a wholly owned subsidiary of any other company, right, then a company may not file a consolidated financial statement if first, it is a partially or wholly owned subsidiary of another company and approval of all the other members, even if they are not allowed, even if they don't have a right to vote, the approval of all the other members have been taken. Second, if it is not listed or not in the process of listing. And third, if its intermediate or main holding has already filed a consolidated financial statement. Here, first of all, this company is a partially owned subsidiary company of what? It is a partially owned subsidiary company of Puri Limited first, correct? Second, the company is not in the process of listing on any stock exchange, correct? Third, this company, Puri Limited, has already filed a consolidated financial statement. If this happens, Madan Private Limited is not required to file a consolidated financial statement. I repeat again, Madan Private Limited need not file a consolidated financial statement if it is a wholly or a partially owned subsidiary of another company and all the other members who are otherwise not even required to vote have given approval that it's okay, don't file consolidated financial statement. Second, it is not listed or is not in the process of listing. Third, its intermediate or final holding has filed the consolidated financial statement. Here, if you see, it's given, I'm not in the process of listing. It is given that the main holding company, Puri Limited, has filed a consolidated financial statement. So can we say that Madan Limited, Private Limited need not file a consolidated financial statement? Yes, provided that they have taken the approval of the remaining 10% members that, okay, we don't have to file consolidated financial statement. Okay. How does it matter if Madan Private Limited had securities listed? If it had securities listed on the stock exchange, then it is mandatory that they have to file consolidated financial statement, right? ABC Private Limited is an OPC incorporated in 2024. The company has not appointed a company secretary due to its small scale of operations. At the end of the financial year, the company needs to file its annual return. Okay, it's an OPC. And OPC don't file the regular annual return, they will file the abridged annual return, MGT 7A. The director in state of dilemma consulted the company law expert whether they need to submit a full-fledged annual return or an abridged. They need to file an abridged version. And who should sign the document? Annual return is signed by a director and a company secretary. But if I am a small company or if I am an OPC, then in that case, anyone can sign. Here, what form should ABC Private Limited use to file its annual return? It is MGT 7A. They have to use the abridged version of the annual return. Who is authorized to sign? Since they have not appointed a company secretary, and in case of an OPC, the annual return can be signed either by a director or the company secretary. Who will be signing this report? It will be signed by the director. Correct? Mrs. Sharma and Associate is an audit firm with two partners, Mr. Sharma and Mr. Raj. Mr. Raj is also a partner in another audit firm, Messrs. Mehta and Associates. Messrs. Sharma and Associate was appointed as the statutory auditor for Bright Future Limited for 2 consecutive terms of 5 years. If you are an audit firm, you cannot be appointed as an auditor for more than 2 terms. After the 2 terms, you need a break of 5 years, and only after that you can be appointed as an auditor. If Bright Future Limited now wants to appoint Messrs. Mehta and Associates, if at the time of completion of term of an audit firm, if that audit firm has any partner common with any other audit firm, such other audit firm also cannot be appointed as an auditor. Here we had Messrs. Sharma and Associates, and we have Messrs. Mehta and Associates. Sharma and Associates have a partner Raj. Messrs. Mehta and Associates also have this partner Raj as a partner. They have already served their term of 2 years. Messrs. Mehta have a common partner with Messrs. Sharma and Associates who have just completed their term. So even Messrs. Mehta and Associates are not eligible to be appointed as an auditor. Never? No, they can be appointed after a period of 5 years, after a cooling period. So when an audit firm has completed its term and it has any partner common to any other audit firm, such other audit firm is also disqualified from appointment for a period of 5 years. So can it do so? No. If not, when will the restriction be lifted? The restriction will be lifted after 5 years. So here it is what? 2027 the term has ended. So 5 years from 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. So after 32, 2032, that is from 1st April 2032, we can appoint them as auditors, right? JEET LLP is a small scale consulting firm. For the financial year, the firm reported a total contribution of 20 lakh and an annual turnover of 35 lakh. The LLP intends to avail the benefits granted to small LLPs. Okay, small LLP, their capital contribution is 25 lakh and their turnover is 40 lakh. Both fulfilled. Can they avail? Yes. Whether JEE qualifies? Yes, it qualifies because it fulfills both the condition. To become a small LLP, your capital contribution should not exceed 25 lakh and your turnover as per the PL of the as per the statement of accounts and solvency of the immediately preceding financial year should not exceed 40 lakhs. Here it is 20 lakhs and 35 lakhs, so they are eligible. So they are eligible. If JEET LLP plans to expand its business and projects and resulting turnover exceeds 50 crores in the next financial year, determine the legal position as a small LLP. It is no longer a small LLP because now the capital contribution is still within the limit, but the turnover exceeds the limit, and it will not be a small LLP. So it will not get the status of a small LLP. Mr. N is caught stealing a bicycle, an offense punishable under the Indian Penal Code. According to section 379 of the IPC, the punishment for theft was charged against him. Elaborate how the term imprisonment levied under the company. So the term imprisonment under General Clauses Act has the same meaning as is given in IPC. IPC talks about two types of imprisonment, which is, simple imprisonment or rigorous imprisonment. So depending on how grave the offense is, he will either be entitled to simple imprisonment or rigorous imprisonment. That will be decided by the court. So I repeat again, when we talk about Indian Penal Code, it can be, the imprisonment can be either of either description, that is simple, or rigorous, depending on how grave the offense is. So if he is a criminal, he actually keeps committing the offenses again and again, he might also be eligible to a rigorous imprisonment. Otherwise, he may be, so that just depends on the situation of the case. He may either be eligible to a simple imprisonment or a rigorous imprisonment. Mr. Amrish has been admitted to a postgraduate program at a foreign university and intends to join soon. The annual course fee is approximately 3,50,000. Kindly advise his parents on how can they make the remittance for the fees under the provisions of the Foreign Exchange Management Act 1999. So when we talk about education or whatever, the limit for this is what? 2,50,000 USD. And if I want to avail anything more than that 2,50,000 USD, I have to get the approval of the RBI. So here, because they have 3,50,000, they need to get the approval of the RBI. Now, this transfer can be done through LRS scheme, and it can be used for both capital and current account transaction, but up to the limit of 2,50,000. Also, if they have already used any foreign exchange, then that amount shall be deducted. For the rest excess amount, they will have to get the approval of the RBI. After completing his studies, Mr. Amrish is employed by a joint venture of a foreign company in India. The company intends to send him on deputation to handle business operations of abroad. So he is actually employed in India only. But for some business purpose, they want to send him to what? They want to send him abroad. His family resides in India and he would like to know if he can remit his salary to support the maintenance. Okay. So when a person is a resident of India but not permanently resident, what is this resident but not permanently resident? If he is sent on deputation for a period not exceeding 3 years, he is considered as a resident but not permanently resident of India, right? In that case, if he is working abroad India and he has family in India, he can send money for their maintenance. He can send his net salary, that is after deducting his taxes and all, whatever is left, that net salary he can send to India to support his family in India. So I'm repeating the whole thing again. If a person, he's employed in India here, so he's a resident of India, but he's sent for job outside India. So whenever a person is sent on deputation outside India for any job or whatever, and the period does not exceed 3 years, he is a person resident in India but not permanently resident. And if he has a family in India, he can actually send his net salary. And what do I mean by net salary? After deducting his taxes, his contribution to Provident Fund and any other deductions, whatever net salary is left, he can send it to India. He can remit it to India for maintenance of his family in India. So with this, we are done with the RTP discussion. I hope this video was helpful. I hope your studies are going well. I hope you are not forgetting to practice writing answers that is very, very important, because that is how you'll score marks. So keep doing that. Happy learning and stay motivated. Thank you so much.